Greetings from Garden City, Idaho, just outside Boise, the home of my undergrad roommate and friend Steve Bryan and his lovely partner Joy. They have taken Michael and me in for a couple of nights, so we have a day of rest. This one was planned 2 nights ago back in Unity. That one was not planned. That one was weather induced, so got an extra rest day in this week. A little bit less progress, but that's cool. So I did an interim post getting me from Bend to Dayville, but I'm going to look back at my notes, my journal, and bring you up to date on what's happened since then and a little bit of including then. Progress made, depending on how you measure things, somewhere around 500 miles so far. Thanks to encouragement of a couple of other long haul cyclists, I am no longer of the EFI persuasion, meaning I don't feel compelled to pedal every effing inch of the whole journey. If there's some place that it's just unpleasant, I'll do what I can to get past it. Yesterday morning, well, at the very beginning, I think it was day 2, there was this tunnel that I was nervous about going through, and we put our bikes in the back of a pickup truck and got through that tunnel. I avoided EFI to make it through that tunnel. And then there was that bus ride that I mentioned earlier to avoid, again, some harrowing roads. I think I'd rather be on a harrowing road than some of these hills, but you learn and adapt. So yesterday was another example of that. Boy, am I getting out of order. When we crossed into Idaho, Steve met me for coffee, Steve Bryan, the gentleman with whom I'm staying, at a coffee shop just across the border in Fruitland, Idaho. And then I put my bicycle on his rack and he rode me on down to his home here just outside Boise, which was not a long ride, but I didn't pedal it. Michael, on the other hand, the young athlete, he pedaled the whole way into here. So he got a few more miles in than I did, and that's okay. I keep telling myself it's okay to skip a horrible hill, horrible traffic, crosswinds, that sort of thing. Some days I've been miserable. Some days I've been having a great time. I knew that would be the case. But I'm going to do what I can to skip more of the miserable days and make the whole trip more enjoyable. For you EFI purists, sorry about that, but that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, let me look back on a couple of things that I haven't mentioned yet. I think I said I've been giving every camp a name, and some of these so the beds in Bend, I've never seen this before, in the Days Inn had black sheet metal around the bottom of the bed. And okay, but if you happen to stand close to your bed, you might bump it with your foot or leg or whatever, and it sounded like thunder in the room. It freaked me out the first couple times I did it, didn't know what was going on. So that's Camp Thunder in that hotel room. We then moved on to Prineville, Camp Frostbite. That was cold in the 30s. Prineville, very secretive. There are data centers there. I think there's one for Microsoft, one for Apple, and 3 for Facebook, according to the Google searches and talking to people in town and stuff. Prineville, Oregon, never heard of it, tiny little town, but man, when you come down the hill and see the airport, it looks like there's runways, but in fact you're looking at the sides of these huge data centers that populate Prineville, Oregon. Who knew? Anyway. Then the road, the wind picked up, 34-mile-an-hour crosswinds. I mentioned before that was all very frightening. Then we went to our first hostel, which I talked about, in Mitchell. Serious, scary crosswinds, very steep climb, but the Mitchell was wonderful, and we met a couple of other long-haul bikers that we really enjoyed visiting with, John and Michael. They were going to head north when we cut south before Unity. I can't remember the place, Route 7, something like that. Anyway, the next night was Dayville, which I mentioned in that previous video. Camp Church. We camped in a church that night. What was the one in? Oh, Camp Frostbite. very steep grade, did some hike-a-bike, harrowing traffic and wind. Some stretches were very enjoyable. Overnighted at the Dayville Community Church. Just Michael and me. It was wonderful. Then we got to Prairie City. Okay, oh, and it was an old train depot, maybe. There's a cattle car there and what looks like an old train station. We didn't get to do the tour because they were closing just as we rolled up. But it was an RV park, which was perfectly nice and had shower and bathrooms and all that sort of stuff. So that's Camp Depot. Really liked it there. Let's see. Wonderful ride. Nice tailwind the whole way. Excellent shoulder, light traffic. Wow, that was a fabulous day. And that was getting into Prairie City, Oregon, where we had a Mexican dinner, very affordable. And that's that. Next, next one I called Camp Exhaustion. I don't know what else to call it. That got us into Unity, which was steep climbs, very steep going down, cool, beautiful park there. The lake that we camped on, prairie dogs running around all over the place, terns and swallows it seemed like down around the water. Saw some raptors. That was a really beautiful place to stay. But the next day, bad weather was forecast, cold, windy, rainy. So we moved from our tent site in the Unity campground over to a little cabin, which we rented for $46 for the day. And we spent that day just chilling out. Trail magic. That morning, a woman came over, said, "We're leaving. My kids don't like shrimp. Would you like some?" And she gave us a bag of it. Must have been at least a couple pounds of cooked shrimp from the restaurant she runs in Burns, Oregon, and a cup of tartar sauce to go with it. So we had that for 2 meals. First, just cold the way she gave it to us, and then Michael sliced the shrimp up and fried it up a little bit, and we had that for another meal. So that was some wonderful tour magic. People have been just doing stuff like that. Was that the day? Yeah, that was also the day I made it down this hill, and I was so cold, I mentioned that I couldn't even feel my fingers, so I stopped at this restaurant that opened up early for me. And this lovely young woman who was biking cross-country from east to west, just one more state to go for her. She was from London, just out of college in Birmingham, and she gave me a little dog mace, not as big as the bear spray that we've got, or presumably not as powerful, but a little dog mace. And she said, "I haven't needed this since Kentucky, so you may need it, so here you go." So a little bit of tour magic from the lady going from, I think she started in New York City and was going to Astoria, I believe. Anyway, a little bit of tour magic. Stayed at that Camp Prairie Dog, I'll call it, and Unity there. And then the longest ride of the trip, got up in Unity and headed almost straight east into Vail, which I did not think I was going to be able to do in one day because it was 71 miles and there were a couple of pretty serious climbs. But I managed to make the whole 71 miles in one day, which normally on my road bike, 70 miles, no big deal. But this 100-pound load, it was a deal. But I made it. I kept thinking, I'm going to stop here for lunch. I'm going to stop here for a snack. I'm going to stop here. But these little towns on the map didn't have a gas station. Post offices were closed, boarded up. There was just nothing along the way in those towns. Michael was following behind me, catching up as usual. And he stopped at a little RV park and got some water because he couldn't get water anywhere else along the way. He did see a couple of badgers eating a dead kill, which was kind of cool. And he got a picture of the badgers. Wow, I didn't expect to ever see one of those in the wild. They're so reclusive, but Michael did. That was kind of neat. So I made it all the way to Vail. Was pretty exhausted when I got to Mal's Diner and I had my treat. But it was cool to be able to do the 71 miles. It was mainly downhill. There was mainly a great tailwind. The last 10 miles, it turned into a headwind. But 71 miles, and that got us to our camp in Vail. um, which was literally right next to a railroad track. Michael's tent was next to the fence, which was just feet from railroad, and so there were noises and smells. Apparently they do a lot of livestock hauling around Vail. But we spent a night there, got up, and promptly made it over to Idaho. Big deal crossing our first time zone, which happened between Unity and Vail. And then an even bigger deal crossing our first state line, finally leaving wonderful Oregon and venturing into Idaho. When you cross the bridge over the Snake River, there's a Welcome to Idaho sign. I didn't even see it because I was concentrating on getting across a bridge because I'm a nervous cyclist. Michael saw it and encouraged me to come back, turn around. I did. There was a tree in front of the sign. Swear to God. We had go back on the bridge, you can't even see the sign. Move up next to the sign, it's up here where you can't get a decent picture with it. It was so weird. So this is the best we could do in terms of a picture of crossing our first state line into Idaho. But we did it. And again, Steve picked me up. And I had a great time yesterday visiting with Steve. Went to a bike shop, replaced my broken kickstand. Today, Steve's going to show us the wonders of Idaho from his SUV. And we're going to go to REI and a couple of other things. And looking forward to the brewery that Steve's a part owner of. We're going to go down there and check that out. So this is a rest day in the suburbs of Boise, Idaho, Garden City. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like these videos. And have a great day. Cheers.